Hi, my name is Representative F from Elliott, and you've just been placed on alert. Welcome to the Elliott Alert. My guest today is Mr. Jerry Payne, the Superintendent of Pine Bluff School District. Welcome, Mr. Payne. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Representative. How are you today?
I'm well.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for coming on the show, and I want to ask you, as a new superintendent in our Pine Bluff district, tell me a little bit about yourself, and then we'll kind of talk about your vision. So, can you tell me where you came from?
Yes. I'm one of 17 children. My family grew up in a small community of Spiritsville, Louisiana, and transitioned to the West Coast, the area of Fresno, Madera. My parents were dairy farmers, and as one of 17 children, education was a high priority in our home.
Yes, I can understand that.
And I was blessed to be able to, as one of the youngest in the family, to go forward and to receive my formal education, and then matriculate into the most noble profession, that being education itself.
Right.
This is my 37th year, having been a middle and high school teacher, high school guidance counselor, desegregation coordinator, assistant principal, middle, elementary, and high school principal.
Wow.
Director of student services, and most recent 6 years as superintendent of the state of Louisiana.
Okay.
And came aboard July 1, following Mr. Frank Anthony here in the Pine Bluff district.
Okay. Now you're saying that you did your first superintendent stint in Louisiana. Is that correct? Was it kind of like a small town like this, Pine Bluff, or was it just a big place where you had tons of students and stuff like that?
Well, one was a rural district, approximately 2,000. The other was similar to us, and both was where we had 5,000 students. So it was rural, though it was a city. It was rural, considered rural, because of the nature, the size of the city. Okay.
So you actually have had the best of both worlds. So it most definitely prepared you to come to this wonderful place called Pine Bluff.
Yes.
Okay.
I've been blessed to have a multiple experience, having worked in urban systems as administrator, 72,000, 63,000, 40,000, and then conversely going to rural communities and working in systems ranging from 5 to 15,000.
Okay. Now, what are your specialties as an administrator?
Well, one of the greatest areas that I've been blessed is to work school community relations.
Okay.
Reaching out to the greater community. If I look in the city of Pine Bluff, one of the critical areas for me is making connection with the faith community, business and industry, and also connecting with our parents, so that there is a triangle for success, connecting home, school, and a community by which you have a relationship to build capacity within your schools.
So one of the most important things that, if I'm correct, that I'm hearing from you, that it's imperative that the school district and the community coexist. Absolutely.
Cannot work in isolation. A school system cannot work in isolation. For example, we're blessed to have a K-16 connection, pre-K 16 with University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, here to assist us with research and working with our teachers, our administrators. And in addition to that, we have a opportunity for 2+2 for if we have a student that needs to go technical route, they have a chance to go to CARC and have that 2 years and then go on to the university system. The other side of that is that the university connects with us because for most cases of certification, we urgently need the university to provide that support. So that's why you have to have that relationship that extends beyond the doors and boundaries of your schools or your administrative offices.
Now, also in that community connection, is one of your visions to get the family more involved in the educational process as well?
Well, a vision for our system, first of all, is to establish a strategic plan by which we as a system are able to bring the family to be an integral part of what we're doing. In August of 2011, we hosted our first community forum, and we're looking to come back in February, the last Saturday in February, to have community forum 2. What that gave us was opportunity to hear from our parents about 11 strategic areas on how we can establish a plan centered around students and around helping students to be successful. Because when we look at our research in our community in terms of Arkansas as a whole, we rank in the lowest, like 48th or 49th in the United States in terms of undergraduates completing college.
Wow.
And so when we take that, we then have to look within our system, what can we do to assist our young students to see the vision about going beyond just high school?
Right.
What do we do beyond those boundaries? And that's where the Arkansas connection that we have involving where students have that assurance to go beyond school, where we have the ability where students can connect with home, because you can't do anything without FAFSA. If I don't complete my FAFSA form, I don't get into the conduit. And so that's why that relationship is starting with allowing parents to give us ideas about what we can do to help their students. But greater than that, having a two-way communication where we also provide support for them in terms of knowing critical information, scholarship, access to the Arkansas promise in terms of what students can do and going, if they do certain things, they're in the pipeline to get access to dollars.
Well, I'm glad you said that because higher education and higher learning is a good thing, and we most definitely need that in our community. But we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about that.
Thank you.
Mom, can I have $1? I think my purse is upstairs on the bed. It's not here. Check the dining room. No, the upstairs closet.
Moms everywhere are finding ways to keep kids active and healthy. Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov.
Abandoned and lost. From the dark, cold streets of the city to a cage in the local shelter, to heaven, your lap.
Welcome back to the Elliott Alert. My guest today is Superintendent Jerry Payne of our Pine Bluff School District. Superintendent Payne, thanks again for coming on the show. And I wanted to ask you, before we went on break, you were talking about some of the educational things and how you're bringing the community and the schools together to kind of commingle so we can attack some things in reference to education. So my question is, how do you see that actually working, and what do you see the future for the Pine Bluff School District in the next 2 to 5 years?
Well, it's a tremendous question, Representative Elliott. As a superintendent, it's so important to have the vision for our system in terms of where you see that system going in a 3 to 5 year period. Establishing a strategic plan is going to provide us with a roadmap by which we will look internally at areas that we will strengthen in terms of what are we doing well, what do we need to assess, how do we work to retain teachers and administrators, what do we do to reduce and work on the fact that we have a student population that is shrinking. As our school system, our city reduces in population, it does impact our system in terms of lost students. One of our key areas that we're working on is what can we do to maximize our ability to have an appetite, help students have an appetite to be encouraged to stay in school, to have a desire to press forward. And working with our strategic plan, the vision lies in what things today, for example, the world is paperless.
Right. It's almost
sending
paper.
Well, if we look in the eyes of our students, we must get on board with what connects with them.
Right.
How do we reach out and communicate the value and the importance of having tools to be successful? Because for me and you, our life is dependent upon what we do to help young students.
That's correct.
Because they are going to be our future.
Right.
But
Right.
more than that, they're going to be the ones that, getting a little older now, my eyes
Right.
not what they once were.
Right.
So I might need an ophthalmologist. Not only that, at the end of the day, our feet are a little tired. We're
Right.
probably going to need a podiatrist. So
That's right.
part of that process is helping assist us to really take a look internally at what we can do to elevate our students and their ability to be a future workforce. When I look at our greater community, we have the urgency of emerging jobs. And with that, our students have the potential to be a future workforce. So Mr. Business and Mr. Business Leader, I want them to be a part of what we're doing in our system because I want our students to know what they must do, how they must be prepared to be a future workforce. But greater than that, I want them to be prepared to go on into careers that will replicate themselves and come back to our community and help build a strong Pine Bluff. The vision as a superintendent is to move from within to also connect that we need business and industry to partner. This year, every school was given a mandate to have at least 2 to 4 business partners.
Okay.
And the reason that's so important is it validates school on 34th, on Ohio, wherever you might be in the city. When I connect with the businesses, I then have a relationship directly with my school and my community.
Right.
It also says when I send out correspondence where I can share with the greater community that we are connected, then it brings us from isolation to integration into continuous connection, what we call a seamless web of connecting home, school, and our greater community. And that's the part as a superintendent I believe is paramount. We hear enough of the things from a negative side. I think we have to take the essence of the positives. For example, how many know that in the last 12 years we've had 12 Gates Millennium Scholars, $150,000 per student.
Right.
Last year there were 2 students that were awarded.
From Pine Bluff?
From Pine Bluff.
All right.
That's the part that I'm saying. How do we say those things and allow our students to realize that there's a greatness and a great opportunity if they are able to be prepared? And that means having a strong workforce in terms of faculty, staff, dedicated, committed to building capacity in students. Do I make a commitment to my 40, my 50, my 70 students? And in seeing them, do I see them as a future and that I'm totally committed as a leader in my classroom? And that's the kind of vision and the desire that I want to have in terms of recruitment and retention of faculty and staff. And then the other side is providing the job embedded professional development for my faculty and staff that keeps them on the cutting edge. Because Common Core, as you know, Common Core is coming. It is going to radically change how we do business.
Right.
It's going to ratchet up in terms of what we call standards and practice in the classroom. It's going to require us to do things much different.
Right, exactly, and which is a good thing. And also, I'm just wondering, are our kids prepared for that right now?
Great question. I would say that it's a work in progress. I believe that first, as leaders, we must be empowered to be on the top of our roles as instructional leaders, and from there, that process can then move over to our students. For example, one of the things that we're working on in job embedded professional development is on thinking maps, where we introduce 8 maps to our students, and the students are able to be introduced at 1 map per week, where a student can have tools by which they can respond, whether it's mathematics, chemistry, whether they're doing a geometry problem, Pythagorean theorem, A plus B equals C squared. The fact of the matter is that we give them tools in terms of circle, the bubble, the double bubble, flow, multiple flow, bridge and brace, in terms of them having tools to which they can be able to respond and not get frustrated, because
Right.
the difference between the average and above average student is self-confidence.
Right.
So helping them be equipped is a element for us to provide students with encouragement to stay in the game and be consistent and be at school, not absent, or being physically present but mentally absent.
Right.
We don't want that.
Right. Well, I'm glad you said that. We're going to talk a little bit more about that when we come back from break.
Mom, can I have $1? I think my purse is upstairs on the bed. It's not here. Check the dining room. No. The upstairs closet?
Moms everywhere are finding ways to keep kids active and healthy. Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov.
Abandoned and lost. From the dark, cold streets of the city to a cage in the local shelter, to heaven, your lap.
Welcome back to the LA Alert. Again, my guest today is Superintendent Jerry Payne. And thanks again, Mr. Payne, for coming on the show. And before we left the break, we were talking about a form of your strategic plan and how we're going to get parents and teachers and everybody involved to move forward for our kids in the district. Can you tell me a little bit more, because you were elaborating on the strategic plan, but right before we left, you were also telling me how it's critical that we have a holistic approach, that being community, that being parent, and as well as school. So how does that form off in your vision?
Well, it's a tremendous question. We're looking for February 25th to have a community forum 2, where we invite parents, our business leader, our faith community to be a part of having a response to a document that began in August of 2011, when approximately 150 members of our community came together at First United Methodist Church, and we developed 11 strategic areas by which we wanted to build capacity in our system. The element of coming back for Community Forum 2 is allowing that same voice to be able to look at, touch, feel, and discuss what it is and where we want to go as a system.
So you're actually saying that the community and its parents and its business owners have a vested interest
Yes.
in our kids' educational process,
Yes.
and the district wants to hear from you.
Yes, absolutely. We must have the voice from our greater community to help guide us, because we want to be partners with them. We do not want to be in isolation or have a sterile document that sits on the sideline. We want to have a voice by which they have a vested interest and commitment to recognize that only when we hear from them and allow them to give input, then we can have a true connection of triangle of home, school, and community.
Right. Because these are our same children who will be running the community in the next 5 to 10 years. So
Absolutely.
we have to show that we have a vested interest in them and that we want them to achieve certain things. Because I think on the break we were talking about, they're going to be doctors and lawyers and all kind of different people who take care of us when we get older. And
Yes.
we want a good, productive, tax-paying students or kids that come up and because we don't want to work all our life. And tell me how, through the forum, some of the things that you guys may discuss to get that the attention of the community.
Well, we will look directly at parental involvement. As you well know, there's a state law about parental involvement, how parents are involved in schools in relationship to allowing them to be partners with you. We will talk about how do you address reduction in student population. What do you do to wane that and eliminate it from continuing and maintain what you have. How do you look at your workforce in terms of recruitment and retention of workforce, and what is it expected of them? How do you develop the governance and the communication between district and home to build greater capacity? How do you deal with the fiscal stability of your system and maintaining fiscal stability, and what steps do you take to assure that not 1 year, 2 year, but 3 years, and looking forward? Those are some of the succinct areas that we'll look at. We also will go back and take a look at the vision, the mission of our system, our core beliefs, and strategies on how we're going to move the system forward.
Now, as a legislator, how can legislators help with that vision so we can actually make it come to pass, and to help you to work with the community to get those things done?
Well, it's a very good question. As members of our legislature in our Senate, you're invited to be a voice. As part of our 28-member committee, we do have 2 of our legislative body persons within our city. Senator Hayden Wilkins, Senator Flowers are part of that committee. But more than that, we need you to let us know how we can partner as it relates to moving legislative laws and areas that can help strengthen us in terms of our schools and across the state. And we have an urgency to know what must we do in terms of sharing information with you and having a two-way communication, being from the legislative body to the school system, because governance is driven from Senate, Representative, House. All those areas are the basis by how we have things occur in terms of whether it's Title I reauthorization, whether it's looking at teacher evaluation, principal evaluations, which we know is coming in 2 years. Those are areas of voice that are still being outlined, and then the biggest one is Common Core.
Right. And I do know for the last several years, Senator Wilkins has been very influential in helping with our school district and providing some of the resources that that we've been needing. As a legislator, I know that I've always been a supporter of education and wanted to know exactly what we need to move our kids forward, because our children are our future.
Yes.
And if we don't actually invest in them, then we don't have any future. So there are some things I think that we can all kind of work on together to get the things done, because it is essential that our children move forward and have the best quality education they possibly can. And,
absolutely.
I know our legislators are most definitely for that, because they're our future.
Absolutely.
And the one thing that I want to ask, with this strategic plan that you have, how can a person get in contact with you? Let's say a business owner or a parent says, okay, I want to be a part of this. How do they get in contact with you?
Great question. If they call my office, if they call 543-4204, Mr. Kelvin Gregg and Miss Mary Harvey are the chair and co-chair, and they can provide them with up-to-date information. Not only that, they can invite them to come out for February 25th.
Okay. So if they contact that number, they can be invited out to the program and give their input on how to move this thing forward.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for coming on our show, and I want to let you
Appreciate
know, Mr. Payne, you've just been placed on alert.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Okay, you too.